This has been a fun one for me, and I feel like I have a long ways to go with it. I think there's a lot more that we can capture, but I don't know, 6 weeks ago or so, posted on the Belltree L that I wanted a list of what Belltree and Handbell choir pieces people had done and that were successful, and wanted their feedback. And I got a pretty good list. I think there's a lot more out there, but I'm looking forward to hearing more. So keep this in mind. Jeff had talked when we were talking earlier as people were gathering. Jeff mentioned that he had done something along these lines a number of years ago and he couldn't remember the piece. So I'm hoping that either something triggers it along the way here or he comes up with it later and shares it with me. But if you think of something, I would love to hear for this because again, this is a class I'm presenting at National this next year. And so any help that you could give me, I would greatly appreciate. So um, the the before we get into the things that I want to share with you, I just want to give you a little bit of history because this really is the roots of Belltree ringing. In 1981, Louise Fryer, whose name you might recognize, and if not, you will be familiar with her soon because I'm going to share some of her music. But Louise saw a group of high school kids who were putting their bells back into the cases. And at the table, they were interlocking the handles and then carrying this cluster of bells over to the cases and unlocking the handles and putting them in the cases. And she looked at that and said, huh, I should be able to do something with that. And so she decided that that would be a great way to extend her choir was to add bell trees, which she coined the term bell tree of this interlocking of the handles and adding it to chimes and bells on the table. And the first couple of things she did were processionals. So the bell trees would process, and then the chimes and the rest of the bells were at the table. They would meet up there and finish the piece up front. So that's kind of where it started. And to continue that history, Barb Brocker, and I'm not calling her out, but she's on the call, so I'm gonna tell her story a little bit. She saw one of these pieces that Louise had done. One of her pieces was performed at National Seminar, and Barb saw it and immediately said, "I got to learn how to do that." And she saw it as a potential for one person, a solo ringer, being able to ring an entire piece without the handbell choir. So Barb kind of started us on that journey of taking it from Belltree and handbell choir to solo performance. And we've kind of come full circle to some degree. We have an increase of arrangers and composers who are now doing both solo music, but also looking at it of Belltree and handbell choir as an extension or other ways to incorporate Belltrees into the full choir experience. So that's kind of what I wanted to explore today, is that full circle. And I'll share a little bit more about how it applies to Area 7 and some other things that are happening related to this at the end of this session. So so it's exciting, but I'll share some videos as well as we go. So we're gonna, oh, that reminds me, I gotta stop sharing and reshare because I forgot to include the vocal. I want you to hear, share computer sounds, screen 2. Okay. Hopefully my computer won't be making too many sounds. So there's a number of different approaches. The first one is that we're going to explore is taking a Belltree solo that has a keyboard score associated with it that allows you to adapt that keyboard score for handbell accompaniment. And there are a number of those that were written that way. So we're going to start there because we've basically been talking predominantly about solo today, or it's a great place to start is solo ringing. So being able to perform it as a solo with keyboard, and then as part of the reason why I wanted to do this as well is because with COVID, as we know, solo is a great way to get started. But as things start hopefully opening up, in the future and people come back to ringing handbells, um, being able to take a solo that you learned that you played with a keyboard during COVID time when you couldn't have all your friends hanging out with you, and then being able to do it as a handbell choir accompanied piece gives you that double. You get to use it twice without having to relearn something. So extending that capability and leveraging what you've already learned. So we're going to look at those first. And then we're going to look at things that were written for Belltree and handbell choir by design. So, and those fall into kind of two categories. For lack of a better term, just anthem, the special music portion where it's, you guys on stage, the bell choir on stage for that portion of the worship service. But also, I've got a few that are processionals, including the ones that Louise first did. So we'll take a look at those. And then we'll look at using Belltree playing a C instrument part. So there's a ton of, well, I wouldn't say a ton, but there's quite a few pieces of handbell music that has an optional C instrument. And if you're fortunate to either have handbells and chimes or have access to a second set of handbells, then you can put the Belltree on that C instrument part. Sometimes you can adapt that, especially like looking at flute lines and stuff. So we'll look at a couple of those. And then Belltree playing, doubling the melody line, we'll look at those. And then covering multiple bells, which is the least number of pieces that I have right now, but I will share some of those things as well. So the first one that I want to share is "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." It's written by Barbara Brocker. It's a solo piece that I've done several times, but I never really paid attention to the fact that it has an option to play that as a handbell choir, play the keyboard part as a handbell choir. So the other reason I wanted to start with this one is because it's one of them I have video of. I will also put this ask out there that if you do anything that is Belltree and handbells choir, or if you know of any handbell choir and Belltree pieces that are out on YouTube or wherever, if you would grab those and put them on the Belltree L or send them to me or whatever, I would greatly appreciate it because we need more of these. We don't have even MP3s of all of the. We don't have the audio files for all of these. So here you go. So for those of you who don't recognize, that's St. Olaf Choir a few years ago with Megan Rishish on the bell tree. So thank you, Barb, for that piece. We really appreciate it. This is a very attainable piece. You can see it's 3 octaves, bells on the second octave, or bells with a duplicate set of bells. So you do need 2 sets for this piece, I believe. But it's awesome. Again, you can play it with keyboard or play it with, and you saw it with the cello there too, which is fantastic to see. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because we don't have a ton of time, and I do have some other videos that I want to share with you. But this one is Little Rock. This one's near and dear to me. This is a piece by Kath Wisninger that I actually commissioned for the Brokering Project. And the thing that Kathleen Wisninger does is she creates a lot of different options of how you might do something. And the Brokering Project is in memory of Lois and Herb Brokering, who were dear friends of mine. And I've commissioned several of their pieces for bells, and most of them for bell tree. The nice thing about this is that this was designed so that you could mix and match how you wanted to do things. If you have a keyboard, if you have a C instrument, if you have an ensemble, if you have a children's choir, you could, you could throw whatever in that you have, and it would be great. So it could be done as a solo with Little Rock and with Beltry and a keyboard, or you can add any of these other instrumentations that I mentioned. So the bell tree is C5 to C7, and chimes 1 to 3 octaves. There's also a music or lead sheet, so you can use that if you have younger ringers. And it's super easy. It's a 1+. So, and you can, as I said, vocals, whatever. So that's Little Rock. Another one from Kath Wisninger. She's been really putting out a lot of these kind of pieces that you can mix and match with. So this is another one that Solo Time 3, Walk the Walk, is one that she came out with just this spring. And it's a solo, or can be done as a duet on G5 to C7. And a 3 octave choir is optional, and it's a level 1. So super easy. And again, some different ways that you can accomplish it. Another one by Kath. This one is, again, a solo piece that you can play C5 to C7, The Best Gift. And it has an optional piano, or it has a piano part that can be played by handbells. So again, taking that solo experience and expanding it to add the choir with you. So that's an option. And the last one in this set from Kath is Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. Maybe not something that you might be using in church, but if you were to be doing a concert maybe at some point in time, bell tree on D5 to C7 with optional second octave of chimes and bell choir. So that's a level 4, so a little bit more in depth. And I'm not going to share this video, but there is a video available of, again, Megan and the St. Olaf Choir with cello, Until the Day Breathes and the Shadow Flees. I have done this a couple of different times with keyboard, and there's a voice part to it at the beginning. But adding the optional cello, flute, and a potential for a choir, 5 to 7 octaves. So this is a powerful one. It was done originally Holocaust memory. I've used it for 9/11 remembrance. So that one's another option. And I've done it with keyboard and flute. Didn't have a cello, but would love to do it sometime with the full choir. So so that was sort of the solo ones. And then I wanted to kind of take a step back and look at some of Louise's things, because there's some powerful stuff out there that, again, we just haven't leveraged to the point that we can. And I think going back to our roots and looking at some of Louise's things, the Journey was the first bell tree piece that I saw, and I didn't perform the bell tree, but I played the second tree on recorder. So we use the two bell trees, or second bell tree as flute or recorder as an option, and then bells and chimes on the table or a keyboard. It's 3 to 5 octaves. It's pretty easy, and this was a great one for me to get my first exposure. Whoops, hang on. We're gonna go see that one. So watch this one, because one of the key things is that they're carrying the bells without any bell. Think about putting this on a dowel instead of a hand carry it. Well, there we go. So he's using a singing bell stick, and also pay attention that I think there's only 7 ringers, if I remember correctly, doing this. So that's the journey. A couple of things to note. First of all, you saw them all holding the bells up, and I think adding it to a dowel processional pole would be really helpful. I've got a bunch of things going our way. Okay, I've seen people saying I played that, and that's a classic, etc. It sure is. Um, so um, this one's still available, and it's a great piece. And like I said, this is like one of the first 2 pieces that Louise came out with, and it was my first exposure to bell trees. So I have a fond memory of that, but it's great to hear it again. The other one that I have a recording of is Two Bell Trees, Processional Joy. This is also by Louise. You can do 2 bell trees. You're going to see in this video that I think there's a couple different versions of this that's recorded, so they're both in here, but they duplicated the bell trees, so you're going to see more than just 2 trees, but they've done that to add so that it has more sound, etc. And they've got bells and chimes on the table, and this is a level 2. So again, and I think one of the things about these bell tree processionals is that part of the power of that is that they're designed to be social distance, so it's built in. Okay. So that was two Beltry processionals. That was Joy out of the Love and Joy. The Joy is the one we heard. And in the chat, Barb said that was the one she saw that started her Beltry journey. So a lot of good memories. And Dawn remembers this as her first Beltry experience as well. 3 to 5 octaves, 3 or 5 octaves, bells and chimes on the table. Level 2. So again, fairly easy. This is another one where I would have put the bells on the dowel tree to help make it easier to process with those. So I just can't imagine standing and holding that even for 2 minutes. It gets really tiring to have your arms over your head for that long with that weight of those bells. So kudos to them. That was the Purdue Bells, and there's another recording of that one as well available. Hyferdal, this one is can be bells as a solo or an ensemble. I think this is the one that just this week we saw a video. I'm not going to play it because of the interest of time, but just this week we saw two young kids, a brother and sister, that played the chimes keyboard or played the bells as a solo part with the bell tree. Anyway, the link's there. You can go and watch that, but that's the latest video that I just got it yesterday. So pretty cool. And another really pretty easy piece by Louise. She's given us quite the legacy. So Bell-Tree Fantasia, another one of Louise's. This is the one that has 1 to 4 bell trees. 3 of them are optional. So, but I think this one could be really cool to have 4 bell trees spread out, and then chimes and handbells 3 to 5 octaves, and it's only a 2+. So another very approachable one. And there is an MP3 of this available, so you can take a listen to it. But I have not seen this one performed and don't have a video of it. But I think it would be cool to see this 1 to 4 bell trees, and have that. That would be a really cool concert piece as well as a worship piece. I paired these up because I don't have these. I didn't have images of them, but a couple more from Louise, and bells on trees, bells on tables, chimes, etc. Again, fairly easy. I own a couple of these. Happiness is, and 2 more from her. So. So if anybody attempts any of these, if you decide to take these on, I would love to see these. This is another one that bell trees, time to rejoice, bell trees, and a bell tree solo. So you can perform that. And many of these don't take a lot of ringers, so take a look at some of Louise's stuff, because even though it's, it seems like it might be a lot, there's oftentimes not a lot of bells in those octaves, with the bell tree taking the lion's share at the top. Okay, moving on from Louise's stuff to some other composers. Holy Manna is one that several people have rung, and this next section is I started out with kind of smaller groups and easier. So this is more ensemble. The main core here, I started with some ensemble. So again, as you're coming out of COVID, having the capability to do something with 5 or 6 ringers, um, being able to, this is from the Ring More with Less series. And on the bell tree is D6, E6, G6, A6, and B6. So 5 notes is all. And then the handbells below that, she has in the front of this how to ring it with 5 or 6 ringers with covering the rest of those bells. And it's only a level 2, so pretty easy. You should be able to pull it together fairly quickly. And I think this could be a nice re-entry piece for coming back into worship and not having to. We all know that when we start bringing the handbell choir back in, there are going to be people who aren't comfortable coming back to the table. So we're going to be dealing with smaller groups of ringers. So 5 or 6 ringers being able to accomplish this with a bell tree is, I think, a really nice option to look at. And along those same lines, one that's coming up for, Advent's going to be here before we know it in just a few weeks. So I don't know if you have time to pull this one together, but for this Advent, but if not, next Advent. So this one is another of Kath Wissinger's, and she's got options in there for bell trees. The reason why there's 2 different classifications is it can be 2 different octave sizes, as I recall. Anyway, there's a lot of different options with this one too, of chimes and bell tree, C instrument, voice, etc. But this looks like a really nice piece too. I've looked through all this. You can accomplish this with 4 to 8 ringers. So again, a quartet or 4 to 8 ringers. It can be awesome, and it's only a 1+. So. Another one with, I believe this is another small group one, maybe. Yeah. I can't remember how many ringers I calculated out on this. I should have made better notes, but Eric Roth, 2 bell trees and a handbell choir was C4 and then F4 through E5. So basically 1 octave in the handbell choir, and the C4 doesn't do very much. But 2 bell trees. So E5 up to C7. So your 2 octaves of bell trees, and then just a few bells in the bass clef, basically accomplishing that. And then option for a soprano glockenspiel if you should happen to have one. So that one could be fun. Patapan. And then looking a little further forward to Lent, Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence, another of Kathleen Wissinger's bell tree. She's got this set up so it can be 2 or 4 octaves or 3 or 5 octaves. So depending on which one, you would have 1 bell tree, either G5 to G6 or C6 to C7, depending on which octave options you're choosing. And then the bell choir corresponding to that, G3 to F5 or B flat 2 to B flat 5, depending on which range you're in. And it's a level 1+, so another simple one to look for this spring. Amazing Grace by Kath, full choir. There's optional bell tree, so bell tree and then bell tree, depending on if you're doing the second set or the same set, depending on how many octaves you have, a level 2. And a couple more from Kath Wisninger, again a level 2+, and this one has all kinds of options: keyboard, harp, orff, boom whackers even in this adventure one. And this one she wrote for, I think she wrote it for a quartet of her teenage boys, and she's a educator, so she wrote this for them to start exploring bell trees, etc. And Jesus Walked the Lonesome Valley, another one for Lent with an optional bell tree or vocal solo, and she even has directions of how to sign the Jesus Walked the Lonesome Valley. So beach bell tree on C6 to C7, so first string, chimes 3 to 5 octaves. It's a level 3. So this one you're going to need um, chimes on the table, and then bell tree. So if you don't have a set of chimes, you're going to want to look for some. Or a lot of these, so you have to kind of look through these different ones. Some of them are really good about the bell tree is within the same set of bells, and some of them you need a duplicate set of bells or bells and chimes. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the music. Just do the preview of the music online and see which way it goes. Another one for coming up for Christmas, this is another one from Kath, the Manger Lullaby, and the bell tree is 3 to 4 octaves, and so you'd need a second set of bells for this, and then the choir is 3 to 6 octaves, and this is a level 3, so a little bit more to it, and playing your full 3 to 4 octaves. Call of the Water is one by Kath. This one is, I just wanted to raise up a little bit because this one was planned for the Area 7 Conference Choir this summer. So this will be part of the conference choir in Area 7 Conference Choir 2022. So if you want to participate in conference choir, or you just want to do the bell tree part for conference choir in 2022, go out and get Call of the Water and learn that part and let me know, because I'll be directing that. And so this will be part of that concert choir when we're together in Duluth in 2022. Some other ones from other composers and so forth. Silent Night. This is 2 to 3 octaves of chimes. So we got, again, bell trees playing the melody and the chimes supporting it, and then adding instruments or vocals. So there's a couple different options in here, but the bell tree is just playing Silent Night. So something that you're very familiar with, very approachable. It's a level 2, but it can be used as a accompaniment for hymn sing. So there's nothing funky about how they wrote this, that it's not, it's not something weird that singing the standard Silent Night is going to work just fine with this, in pretty much how the congregation would know how to sing it. Another Christmassy one, the Winter Lullaby, could be used for Advent or Christmas season or Epiphany even. And it's bell tree in B5 to F7, so a little bit higher in the octave, but chimes or bells, and it's a level 3 minus. And I have that one on video. Let's see. So I'm looking at the time and realizing the time is running away from me. So I got more into this than I thought I would have. So I'm gonna cut that one short and just cut through a couple of others. Meditation on Picardy, there's a video of that one as well. Um, and the Oh Holy Night, this is a new one by Brian. We're getting up into level 3 plus and we'll be headed into level 4s. But there's a video preview of this so you can listen to the audio and it actually has the page turns so you can follow along the music to see how this one lays out. I had not seen that on the Handbell site yet before, so that was something new. But um, Getting to level 4 music, Lord of the Loom, and videos of this. It's fantastic to watch. I'm sorry we just don't have time to see all these videos. I should have cut some of the other ones short, I guess. But um, level 4, so maybe not approachable for right now with the current situation, but hopefully in the future. And A Child Shall Lead Them, written by Michael Glasgow for Barbara Brocker. And in the description it says it's difficult. And I've heard from Barbara it is. So this is for a challenging Beltry piece. If you want a challenge, this is where you need to look at. Maybe not for this Christmas or for this year, but down the road. A couple of processionals that I wanted to draw up. Again, processionals make a lot of sense because they're already designed to be social distancing. So this one is by Cynthia Dobrinsky, and it's 2 bell trees and optional. There's a third optional bell tree and 3 ringers. So pretty super easy. The O Come Emmanuel. And Processional Joy by our friend Barbara Brocker, bell tree and handbell choir and optional chimes. And Festive Introit, Victor Guma, 2 bell trees, and a handbell choir. And there's no leveling on that one, and I didn't find a picture, so I couldn't preview that one, so I couldn't tell you more about it. But I've rung that one as well for something down past seminar. A couple of other things. So this is moving on to a different style. This is something that has, I believe this is flute parts, if I remember. I lost my cues.
This one's Fluke, Karen. This is one of my
Okay.
favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, Christina sent me a couple of things from her. So this is using the bell tree as for the flute part, and there's 3 of them here that I'm going to share with you. And you just heard Christina say this is one of her favorites. So it's only a level 2 plus, so very approachable. And handbell is 3 to 6 octaves, so again very approachable. But you do need a double set, either bell tree or hand chimes to double it. Semper Paratus is one by Kath Wisninger, and there's a piccolo part. So if you want to go for the marine melody for one of the, or for the Coast Guard, excuse me, Coast Guard, there's an option there for one of the military services. And Kath's Norwegian Fantasy, also bell tree on the flute part with handbells in 3 to 5 octaves and a level 3. I did a quick search on Jeffers and for anything with flute part, and I got over 500 results. I'm not guaranteeing that any of those would work for Belltree, but I'm sure there are some out there. So look at your library and see what you've got. If you have some music in there that has an optional flute part, see if you can double it, use that flute part for Beltry. I'm sure there's a ton out there. I just didn't have time to go digging through them to find which ones might be working. And if you've done anything where again, please help me. If you've done something where you've substituted a Beltry for another part or something and it wasn't on this list, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. We'd like to share that list with everybody on the Beltry L. Angels We Have Heard on High. This is another one there's a recording of. This is doubling the melody. So there's a couple of these doubling the melody parts. Angels We Have Heard on High is one by Kevin McChesney. I think I grabbed the right one, that it's this bell mark. He's actually got 3 different Angels We Have Heard on High that I found on the Handbell website that I was looking at. So I'm not totally sure this is the right one, but I think it was from what I could listen to and see. And this one's really fun, the doubling the melody line. Watch this video by Jay Wall. It's really good. Away in the Manger, doubling the melody line. Someone else sent me this one too. Did you send me this one, Christina? I
This
can't
was
remember.
not me. Yeah.
Uh, anyway, so again, 3 octaves of hand chimes, 1+, so super easy, and the bell tree doubling the melody line on that. And the last one that I had on the list was "Come All Ye Shepherds." This is one that Deb Model sent to me, and their choir got together this fall, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do this. We don't have enough ringers." And she looked at it and she said, "I went to a bell tree class, and I think we can do this." And so she pulled out her dowel Beltry stick and strung up E6 to C7, and she played it. It's predominantly a malleted piece, so that lent itself to Beltry, but she adapted this to help her choir be successful for playing this piece in these days of COVID. So I wanted to bring that one up as well. Again, I'd love to hear if you have recommendations. Resources, the repository, and the Beltry L group. I'll be posting all of this information out there so people can add to it. But I haven't gotten it there yet because I've been trying to get it ready for this class. Um, Before we close out, I just want to also mention that last spring, so about 18 months ago, we had our first Into the Forest Bell Tree gathering where several of us, there was about 16 of us that came from all corners of the United States. And we got together, all bell tree enthusiasts, and some of you are on this call. We got together to just share ideas and explore what we could about bell trees. And one of the things we came up with was that we'd like to see more of this bell tree and handbell choir music. And so to encourage the composers and arrangers to do more approachable bell tree and handbell choir music, we created a composition contest. There's a link. The word contest is actually a link to more information about it. But we delayed the deadline. The deadline was originally in August, and we delayed it because the 2 choirs that were going to adjudicate the contest are not meeting. So there was no point in having them send all the music. We have already received some entries. We will post on some of the Facebook pages when the deadline is back on, but when we can do that. But there's some basic guidelines here, and we just are trying to encourage more of this type of music because we think it's the way of the future, and to incorporate bell trees, and especially with the experience we've had in 2020 with COVID. Bell trees have really come to the forefront, and I think this is another inflection point for this as an instrument, as a way to use our our handbells as an instrument. Bell trees is a great instrument to add to the repertoire. So, um, yeah. So I guess at this point, I would just like to, first of all, thank you all. I'm sorry I ran a little bit over. Of course, it was the last session that would run over instead of one of the other ones. I see some chats coming in. Let me grab that. Um, some thank yous and so forth. So I would appreciate hearing from all of you again. This was a kind of a opportunity for me um, to put together these classes, and I submitted them for national, and 3 out of the 4 of the classes that I did today have been selected for national next year. So we're hoping to take bell trees to a broader audience, and any feedback that you can give me of what was helpful, what wasn't helpful, what I need to do to make it better, I would love to hear from you. Um, I'll put my contact information in the chat if you want to grab it from there. Give me just a second and I'll put that one in. And if anybody has any comments or questions while I'm doing that, I would happily have you speak. No one has a thing to say.
I was
I've
just
killed them
making sure
all.
I sent it to the right place, Karen. I sent you some screenshots to
Oh,
your
perfect.
Yahoo
Thank you.
address. I don't know how great they are, but I got what I got.
That's okay. I can always try and pull them out of the video too, but
Mhm.
it's better if we get them real time.
Right.
Hopefully, I didn't have my eyes closed and my mouth open on too
Well,
many of
one of
them.
them's not so great. The other one I think I got was more. It was a better shot because when you click it to do a screenshot, it just stops wherever it's at, and it's hard to time
Yeah.
it. But yeah.
Yep.
Aaron, this has been a real inspiration and motivational session, and
Mhm.
I'm excited. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And Marlene, if you need help, I mean, Jennifer is right there in Stillwater, so she's on the mentor list. So if you need some help getting your youth started in Beltrees, you've got a resource right there.
I missed where you are at,
She's
Marlene.
Stillwater.
But I mean, which church?
Our Savior's Lutheran,
Okay, so that's it's the one on the.
up the hill.
Yep, I know where it's at.
Our choirs, we just are afraid to get together. So
Right.
we've only met, we've only been part of one service, and all our services are online. So it has to be taped and all that. So it's
Right. That's
it's
what we're doing.
yeah, right. So, but I need the help, all the help we can get. So
Sure, just let me know.
okay.
Well, thanks for coming, Marlene. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that this was helpful. And we look forward to hearing more about your Beltree journey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. It was great.
Thanks,
Yes, it was.
Stars.
Thank
Well,
you, everyone,
hopefully you guys can all take
coming.
these and apply them. And like I said, I look forward to hearing more from all of you and learning more about your journey. This is a journey I've been on for a while, and Barb has been a great support to me, and I've learned a lot along the way, and we just keep trying to make things happen. So